Hey, is Dusty dead yet?
Trust me, people, it's funny now.
It's awesome because all your friends, every single one of your friends has a brand.
Valid. It's very true. That's a very true statement, actually.
And you're wearing you wear a West Coast hat all the time, and I do appreciate it.
This hat, actually, I brought it out of retirement yesterday because I felt like I was good enough to wear it again. I hadn't worn it this whole comeback.
And keep in mind, everyone, I don't do anything for him. I actually am kind of a shitty friend. So he's still wearing the hat despite that.
Hey, it's not my fault you guys make the best stuff. And then the shirt, I put it on the other day when I first wore it, and I was like, these colors. Man, I don't usually wear a lot of
sharp shirt. That's a sharp shirt. I know that, it's on a webcam and stuff, but you see it and it looks nice when you see it.
Oh, for sure.
Tops, so we've swapped things up. We're recording differently. Mm-hmm. We had something happen that seems to have happened to everybody. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about it. I've heard everybody. And then, Fouad had the famous incident where he lost a 2-hour Jay Cutler interview.
I'm glad you finally got to what we were talking about because it sounded like an erectile dysfunction issue.
No. And then we previously lost an episode, but it was just us. We had no guest.
True.
And we had some problems on that episode anyways. And I remember we lost it. We were like, oh, well. And then it happened. Last week, we had the Mountain Dog John Meadows on for his second appearance on It's Just Bodybuilding. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding, by the way. Like, share, subscribe.
I'm being told to bring the mic in. You're being, you did this on your own. You remembered. That's good. How am I now, Scott? Am I good?
So we had John Meadows on.
You're good.
And fuck, did we have a good chat, eh?
I'm just shaking my head. That's my answer because we covered things that had nothing to do with bodybuilding. Then we touched bodybuilding. I mean, the football stuff was gold all by itself.
Just listening to him talk about coaching and how he's running the offense and stuff. I had a lot of fun that interview, and then we lost it. And it was a tragic software, looked like something out of a movie that happened to the software. It was all fucked up and corrupted the entire file, and we were unable to pull any audio or anything from it. So we just want to apologize to John. Obviously, we feel like we wasted a couple hours of his time, even though he had a good time chatting with us.
I was going to say, we had a good chat. We just didn't get to share it with anybody else.
Yeah, because we had our own private little episode. It was a really good one, too. And John said, hey, I'm happy to come on again and redo an episode. But from everything I've ever been told about redoing stuff, with problems like that, it's to actually kind of wait a little while so that you don't accidentally attempt to recreate it.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking. Even when we talked about it, I'm like, you just got to let it go where it goes at that point.
Months or something. Yeah. Crazy. What's going on with you, man?
Same old. I mean, now life's normal, so things are normal here. We don't have any restrictions. I don't have any restrictions as far as me and training. So it's just getting things back to normal. My therapy, I have a fucking team. That's how old I am, apparently, working on me. So we're fixing my right side, but things are they're cranking along. So I kind of feel like it's kind of old news now, and I'm just building up.
So how bad is your right side? Give us an example.
I can't do, so pressing has gotten better, but just like a normal single arm dumbbell curl, I can't do both sides at the same time. I have to be able to kind of twist my arm under a little bit. I have no resistance on internal rotation. So if I'm trying to resist you, you'll just pull me right out. No problem. You know what I mean? So
your subscap is really weak.
Yeah, and it's actually coming from my neck. It's somehow when they left me prone. So Jason is fixing it. Dom is fixing it. And, it's getting better every single week. So it's just more of what's nice about it is I'm in a mental place now where progression is showing, so I'm not really impatient. I'm just kind of like, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the only thing that's
you're in the wagon and the wagon is going up the hill. So you're fine.
yeah. And the only thing that's funny is I think, I mean, I've got a theory that has no backing, but I'm super, super sore all the time.
Okay.
But I think it's not just from being back in the gym. I've been back in the gym now for almost a month. I really think it has something to do with how quickly the muscle's coming back also, because I'm wrecked after I train. like
you mean like 2 or 3 days worth of DOMs, like normal, like that type of soreness?
Yeah, like that, only 6 days.
6 days. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the
exactly
night, the night before I'm about to hit a body part again. I'm like,
you're wondering.
Okay, yeah, it's 90%. So I guess I can go again. You know what I mean? Whereas like my lats were sore enough the other night that it was 3 days later. I woke up in the middle of the night and I went to get like back in bed that took the dogs out. And I was like, I'm too sore to get comfortable. I had to take 2 Motrin just to take to go to sleep.
That's funny. As far as you mentioned soreness, I notice that I don't get as sore as I used to. I don't get my old soreness at all.
Asshole. Oh.
From, from just, I think, obviously, my training intensity is like super high right now though. Like I still train as hard as ever, but the loads just aren't what they used to be. And I think it's just a tissue damage thing. And then also, it would also make sense if it has to do with muscle fullness. Like as your muscles, a fuller muscle has more tension in it. So therefore the stretch loading would be more damaging.
Right.
So I think that when your muscles are really big and full and you stretch load them, because I would notice it, especially if I did stiff leg deadlifts or dumbbell flies or whatever your kind of stretch load, exercises are.
Yeah.
And I would always get more soreness doing those. And then I also noticed, I've mentioned this before, that close to a contest, I stopped getting sore. And I think it's because you're like, you're low carbs and you're not getting those crazy pumps and you're a little flat. So the stretch load isn't as damaging.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely say it's nice because you're doing what you're supposed to do. The connection is there and everything. But I'm definitely looking forward to the normal, like 3 days sore back to normal.
3 days, 2 days sore, or just like that. Oh yeah, my chest is sore.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful that I'm in a 1-story unit here. Stairs would not be my friend.
Yeah.
When I was in South Carolina, I had to go up and down the stairs all the time, and I'm like, I would look at them like, do I really need what's up there? Maybe I'd just sleep on the couch. It's a nice couch.
If you lived in Texas, you'd have a giant ranch house.
Yeah, see, that's what they have here.
One floor.
East Coast, they fucking love these 2-stories for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's not my deal. I'm more like you. You got the condo. You just take the elevator up and you're good to go.
Yeah, I have no stairs in my life at all.
Yeah.
Except for at the gym.
The gym if you want to do cardio. But see, I don't do cardio, so it'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't
bathrooms
been up there
are downstairs. The bathrooms are downstairs. The weights are downstairs. Why the hell would I go up there?
I don't even know what we have up there.
Somebody's like, step mill's broken. You're like, prove it.
Yeah, I don't know. Step mills.
What are those? So did you do a question box? I didn't look.
No, I didn't do a fresh question box. I know you did one. I had some topics that I thought we could do pretty good with, and I was just willing to kind of freeball it.
Wow, I like this commando idea of yours.
I do the show commando, by the way.
Can we? I think one thing I definitely wanted to touch on is the women's bodybuilding this weekend.
Yeah,
I mean,
hey, how did Makayla look?
Like I want her to prep me.
It's unbelievable, eh? I was watching that. I was watching her hotel room pictures. Damn.
Yeah, absolutely bananas. And we're gonna have her on here shortly. Actually, she's agreed to come on the show.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, well, I've been working it for like a
We
year.
were
I've
just waiting.
begging,
We were
sending
just
gifts.
waiting until she looked. We were just waiting until she like showed up in shape.
See, I was going more a different route. I was waiting until she was so brain dead from being shredded that she would agree.
Yeah, there you go.
In the off season, she was thinking far too clearly and kept saying no. She's like, "No, I'm not going out with you."
Yeah, yeah. Don't even bother asking when there's ice cream in her.
Stop
She
it.
knows all day long.
No, but I mean, literally, it was awesome to see her come back. And I love knowing that she essentially did. I mean, she did a prep herself. She did bounce some ideas off of Andrew Vu at the end just to make sure that her head was in the right place. But yeah, she posted the pictures from the hotel, and I'm like, well, if you get beaten, then good for the girl who brought something better than that. So
yeah, she also has like crazy, like it's hard to compete with the shape too, like the back double with the really super wide back.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, but she's got. It's funny because I've talked to a few people that didn't realize, like, she'll bury most men in the gym, just fucking kill them. Like,
yeah.
You know, she's
I see the banded leg presses and stuff where she adds the band to the Cybex squat press to make it worse.
Yeah, but then she does it like a 17-second negative. I mean,
yeah, with like, what did she go, like 8 plates?
Yeah, it's freaking silly. Crazy. Yeah, it's funny too because she's. I was talking to John Ward last night, and I said it's so nice because you see her and she's like this nice, sweet thing, and she's like 4'0", and then she kills you. So
yeah. Good. I like it. Yeah, definitely awesome. Have her on the show, buddy. We already talked about her a long time ago, so we talked about having her on. So
I've been begging. So.
I'm glad you sent the message.
Yeah, I actually reached out before I knew she was competing again, and then she actually told me she was, I'm competing. She wasn't planning on doing this show. I think she was doing one next weekend, which I'm sure she's not doing anymore. But yeah, she jumped in and went ahead and beat everybody. So that's fun. I'll never know what that's like.
Well, and then here, another thing too, like, she got me like to pay attention to women's bodybuilding all weekend, which, I'll admit I don't always do the most of. And it's good for women's bodybuilding. So she's good for women's bodybuilding.
Agreed. 100%.
100%.
Heather Grace went over to women's bodybuilding as well.
Oh yeah.
Which is awesome. I've always loved her physique as well. And I think she kind of same thing, kind of grew out of the division. And
the physique division, you mean?
Yeah. And I respect the fact that these girls, they're like, your option is either regress or continue bodybuilding. And so that's what they do. They're like, I don't really feel like going the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, imagine being in a position where like, you're in that kind of prime of your career and you've like really discovered how to add muscle to your body at an advanced stage. And then they start telling you to stop. And you're like, but I just figured this shit out.
There's no way.
Like the first 50 pounds of muscle, that's just eating and training hard. Right.
Right.
And then it starts to get harder and harder to add muscle. So you get some of these girls that like figure it out. They figure out their bodies. And then someone tries to tell them to stop or they're going to have to leave the division. And it's like, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think a lot of them would just, I mean, when you truly love the sport, they would leave even if there was no division. Like, because I think the people who truly love this, like those two, they compete and they like to compete, but they do this because it's in their soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think they need a stage to continue the work and the growing and all that good stuff. It just gives you a reason.
I agree. I can relate. I mean, damn. What else going on, buddy?
Same old, man, other than I got these millions of questions. I mean,
so let's say I got to ask you about a couple things.
Fire.
First of all, you're training with Tommy again.
Yes.
So I just wanted to get like, what was the first workout back like?
So we trained, the very first day was, pressing, which is actually the one, like definitely the area that's still working to come up. And we did a bunch of stuff I hadn't been doing yet. So it was my first time on like the Smith, incline, felt good, but I have no reference on that to know if I went up, you know what I mean? But that's,
you're just training.
Yeah. But it was funny because I posted about it. I got done. So we got to, a incline fly press that I love doing, but I had no idea how much weight to use. So I started with 20, and I was like, all right, I'll try 20. And that was fine. Then I went to 35, but I did realize that kicking them up because of that neck issue was hard. So I told Tommy, I'm like, why don't you hand them to me? Hand me the right one up high, and then I'll just start in the motion. So we did that. And it was funny because I went up to 35s, and there was a kid standing there doing curls. And I literally was like, hey, how would you stand on the other side of that bench? Because I have no idea what's about to happen. Like, I didn't know if I'd go up and lose balance and just dump it. Because I told Tommy, I'm like, whatever happens, don't try to spot me. Just let it be. I'll drop the dumbbell if I have to. So I did that. I did the 35 and it went well, like really well. So I was like, all right, screw it. I think I ended up going to like 45, which is kind of funny because I used to do those like 130. But I got done and I told Tommy, I'm like, well, that didn't go as bad as I thought. I mean, I started at 20. And it was so funny because Tommy doesn't have he talks monotone always.
Right.
And literally without breaking speed, he goes, a month ago, I was holding your juice box so you could drink out of a straw. And I was like, okay, this went very well. You're right.
That's funny. That's funny.
You've made a very valid point that I could not support a juice and drink out of it a month ago. So
yeah, you're doing all right, man.
It was good. But actually yesterday we did legs and I was super stoked because I underestimated on everything, so that was good to see. But legs aren't connected to that issue. My legs are way down in size, but strength is not what it was. But I was really happy. I'm like, oh, okay, and we did a lot of weird stuff, high rep stuff. So we did single leg press. Dante's got me doing sets of 50 with that. Yeah, and you know how that works. At 30, your mind is begging you to stop.
So this let's just say, is this sets of 50 or is it one working set of 50 with each leg?
One working set of 50 with each leg, and then you go to 2 legs and do a set of 30.
Okay, because I was just saying.
Yeah, you hear the word sets, you're like, so how many of those are you doing? No,
yeah, because I can do. I can
10.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. You're not doing Dante that shit twice.
Dante likes the high rep Widowmaker style sets for certain things and certain people. And I know exactly what he's doing with your training. I can see exactly what the plan is. So that's awesome. I'm excited for, I know you guys have talked about
me from myself. So
yeah, which exactly. Someone's got to do it, Dusty.
Yeah, it's definitely not me.
We all tried to protect you from yourself for years.
But nobody was there to tell me to chew the steak, assholes. You thought I had that one under control on my own, So how about you, man? I mean, what's going on up there?
It's going really good. We had that crazy fucking hot patch that it actually killed there's 130 people that died from just sitting in their apartments and getting dehydrated. So Canadians aren't used to 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
It's fucking brutal. But anyways, we got through that. It was all good. I got a bit of Achilles tendonitis for the first time.
That from the bike?
Yeah, I think it's because I was working on this one trick that I'm trying to add to my trictionary. You like that? Yeah. So I got this one trick that I'm working on, and it's I must have fucking tried it a couple hundred times. It's just this one hop. I got to hop from one peg to the other and fucking pull the bike around. And I just jamming that foot onto the peg a couple hundred times. All of a sudden, my Achilles tendon, I was like, oh shit, I have Achilles tendonitis for the first time in my fucking life. I'm like,
is that brutal? Like walking?
No, it's just no, walking's fine. I don't notice it walking. I only notice it when I go to train calves.
Right.
It's I'm totally fine. But when I go to train calves, I'm like, yeah, that tendon's kind of sore. And
do you think most people wouldn't even know if they had it since they don't train calves?
Well, hey, there you go. They might run up some stairs. What stuff normal people do? Do normal people run upstairs? Is that a normal person thing?
It's funny. I had to say that because Matt, I'm doing Matt's training again. And he texted me this morning. He said, the week 3 leg is stupid. And I sent back, I said, yes, it is. And then he sends it back. He goes, but my calves are up a half of an inch. And I said, well, it's amazing what happens when you actually fucking train them.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish.
That's most people's problem why their calves won't grow, because they don't actually use them.
Right. It's funny. Because my Achilles tendon was a bit sore, I was like, oh, well, shit, I can't not train my calves because they're already terrible. I have to train them or they just get worse. So I thought, okay, I'll just do like all sets of 30 then, and
Right.
and as long as I don't go into like the super high contraction, that's where it hurts.
Oh my God. I was going to think it was the opposite. I thought it would be the deep stretch.
The very bottom stretch. So I just do like a middle, like 2/3, like 30 rep flex set kind of thing.
Right.
And they get super pumped. And then they actually got crazy sore the first time because it was like something different.
You found a way.
So it was kind of funny. Like just the muscle was like super sore and my ankle felt fine. So I was like, oh shit, that was actually okay.
Right.
So yeah, just finding a way. But I got to remember, they say, that I'm not 25 anymore.
Bullshit.
But my hormone panel would say otherwise.
Mine too.
What
do you mean you're 19? You're 19? Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah. Look at my blood profile. Like, are you having a lot of wet dreams, son?
Be careful. Sixes look like tens to people like you.
When's the last time you had a wet dream, Dusty?
Wow, that I was part of.
Aren't you part of all of them since you're having them?
Wait a minute, what's happening here?
I think I had a fucking random one, and when I was like 35, I had like a random. I woke up one morning. What the fuck? It's funny.
I don't think I've run into that since I was probably a kid. Oh,
yeah.
Fuck this guy. I hate this person.
Okay, what's going on?
All right,
you hate somebody?
Yes, because they said Bucks in 6. Like the Suns are playing the Bucks in the finals right now.
Notice how Dusty didn't really want to like hang out on the wet dream topic. He was like really
I'm
ready.
Skipping right over that shit. Yeah,
I thought when the wet dream topic first hit, I thought, hey, this might be 10 minutes, and then it was like 15 seconds. It was all good.
Yeah, because listen, you've got someone at home. There's really no reason for you to have wet dreams. You should be unarming the weapon before you go to sleep.
No, I know, but that's the hilarious thing about them. Like they just you have them when you're like 12, 13, 14, 15, you're having wet dreams or whatever the fuck, whenever they start.
Yeah,
and then they go away. But then you have like a wild random one when you're older and you're like, holy fuck. And it's like you got a freebie. Yeah. In fact, so I know. So
to me, it would seem like a waste. It's a waste. Like I didn't even know it was there. I just woke up in a sticky mess. I don't want that shit.
No. They're great. So Emily and I have been together 9 years, and I know for a fact I had one since we've been together because I remember us talking about it and laughing our asses off. But yeah, you have a dream where you're like banging some hot chick. Maybe it's someone you know, maybe it's not. And then you go poof, and then you wake up, and it's like you got a freebie. It's like, honey, I just had a hall pass.
I could definitely tell you that has definitely not happened to me. So that's a problem.
It pretty much counts. It feels almost like the real thing,
Wow.
Yeah.
You gotta. Yeah. I guess I'm glad that didn't happen while I was under the influence of doctors' drugs. That's good news.
Oh yeah. Hey, who knows where you went, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, somebody does. They were all there in the room. So Jesus.
See, I couldn't let the wet dream thing die. I had to bring it back for at least a 2-minute story.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you brought it back for yourself.
But I'm ready to move on now. I'm good.
He's that's good. Oh wait, there's a question about wet dreams.
Okay.
There's not.
I know.
Okay.
But let's hear from the audience.
Phone a friend. I'm going to call someone and ask them if they've had wet dreams.
Now is when we do decide to go live on Facebook. This is when like the screen will be going, all the people.
We need to start doing that soon.
Okay. I'll leave a note next to this. I'll leave a note next to this topic.
We'll bring it back. We're going to bring it back for the Facebook group. That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, here we go. I'm starting with some good ones. What are your top 3 bucket list items?
So you don't mean things
just you got to do
like
before you die.
List.
No, yeah. See, I went for something you weren't ready for. It's tough, right?
Yeah, no, that's, you know what? It's funny. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Um, you know, it's kind of cool because I already got to do like a lot of cool shit, you know,
Right.
like, you know, I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, I got to skydive.
I've already
Like,
done that.
I don't have to skydive. I bungee jumped in Malaysia off one of the highest ones in the world
Yeah, that's fun.
twice.
I thought that
So
bungee jumping was actually more exciting than skydiving because the ground is right there.
yeah, you're like, what the fuck am I about to do?
Well, plus, you know, when the bungee grabs you and you still get that feeling like you do on a like on a roller coaster.
Oh yeah,
You don't get that when you jump out of an airplane. You're just falling, so it's like nothing.
yeah,
It's a cool view, but yeah, I thought that the bungee jumping was cooler. So go ahead.
yeah. So I don't know. I just want to have enough money that I'm like secure. I don't have to worry. You know what I mean? That's my number
Pretty
one
much
thing. I
there,
don't
but
really think
yes.
about bucket list items. You know, I've been to NFL games. I've been to like, you know, I don't know. I've done a lot of cool shit. I've been to every concert I've ever really wanted to go to, you know.
I don't. I'm with you because I don't have anything
I've
that like.
stood on top of mountains and I've been on like tropical islands and I've done like a lot of cool shit. I've been super lucky. I don't really have a bucket list of like things. I I have a great day every day. I'm
Right.
really like most days is like pretty awesome. Like, what'd you do today? I'm like, I fucking worked a lot, but I also worked out and I rode my bike and I pet my dog and I got an awesome girlfriend. So I'm pretty happy. And what do you do?
Yeah, you're like me. It's like every day. It's kind of funny because I know people like they'll live for the weekend or for whatever else. And I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, I actually typically don't even know what day it is, other than when we do the show. I know I need to be here. But outside of
Yeah.
that, like literally, I'll ask. I asked Tommy the other day at the gym. I was like, "What day?" And he's like, "Oh, we're doing we're polling." And I was like, "No, what day is it?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Wednesday." Oh, cool.
I know. I know.
Wednesday, very cool. No, I'm with you. I don't have any bucket
I,
lists either because I would just do what I. If I had something I wanted to do, I wouldn't even know it was on my bucket list because I'd get it done before the end of the year.
right.
Like
And
I have things I
that's
want to
pretty cool.
do this year, but they're not like, oh, before I die, I better make sure I do this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, these are things I want to do. So no, I'm with you on that. Definitely with you on that.
That's like the lamest fucking answer I could have. I didn't even give one fucking thing.
Yeah, but you don't really have one though. Like that's the problem. And
I
you
don't
have to
know.
like make
There's,
something up.
yeah, it's fucking weird.
I think Ron
You
wants
know?
to be in the X Games and he wants to win the whole thing. That's his bucket
Ha
list.
ha ha. No, but I would like to be a good enough rider that I could like go to one of those. They have these like world jams. Like there's the One Love Jam in California, and then there's the
Mm-hmm.
Voodoo Jam in New Orleans, and it's like, you know, they have them in Germany and shit. But like riders come from all over the world, and they just fucking party for like 3 days and ride. You know what I mean? And there's
Is it
like all
like
these.
just like a giant space, or how do they do it?
Yeah, so they like have some designated riding spots, however you organize it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a contest, like on one of the days there's a contest where like actual pro riders will compete, but other than that it's just like they'll say, "Oh, you know this, like the one in California, there's this giant fucking parking lot that's really famous. It's just
Mm-hmm.
fucking humongous. It's down by one of the beaches, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they meet every year, and it's just like fucking hundreds of them. And then but then they're also, you know, they're at the restaurants and they're going out and there's bands playing and it's like, you know, all kind of crazy shit, right? So those are kind of, it'd be cool to go to one of those. It's like a music festival, but it's all fucking riders.
How do you become a professional? I don't know what you even call it, flatlander. So to
Oh,
speak.
it's just you just have to be good enough that you like back when
So you
like
you just ask, but basically, but you can get embarrassed if you're not awesome.
yeah, like when you enter a contest, you check the box like novice, intermediate, expert, professional,
Right.
you know, and
Okay. Because I know that's how it is with boxing. Like I could literally I could be a pro boxer immediately.
yeah, you go box for money right away.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get your ass handed to you probably. That's actually why I love boxing. I really like at the highest level. But as guys are coming up, they pad their numbers. Like they fight guys that should not be in there with them, and it's like
Yeah, there's a lot
seems
of that.
seems like a waste. You know what I mean? Like I know a friend of mine that was fighting at one point is early in his career, but I think they paid him $70 for the fight, and the guy they fought, they paid him $2,000.
Right.
it just wasn't on the level. You know what I mean? It was like, you're here to get your ass whipped. It's gonna look good.
It's like back in the 80s. It's like back in the 80s when they would send out the jobbers to wrestle the big names in the WWF. You know,
exactly.
If you watch this Saturday morning wrestling. There were no superstar versus superstar matchups. Those were saved for like the big cards. You know,
yeah.
It was those Saturday matchups were like, you know, the Big Boss Man versus David Smith.
Yeah, from North Carolina.
And David Smith gets dropped on his head at like the 30-second mark, and you pin him, and that's over with. You know,
that's very true. Yeah, I was curious about that though, because it is a subjective thing.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that I do like that they do, and I don't even know if it's a real thing, but like I follow that Barracks, the skateboarding page, and they'll do a competition where if you and I were competing on the bikes, I do a trick and you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
and then it goes back and forth. Like, so if somehow I miss my trick, then you get to start and I have to do yours. You know what I mean? Those are cool.
That's so brutally hard to do because everyone's got a different style and a different bag of tricks. And it can be, that's those guys that can play that game and go for like hours. It's just amazing.
Yeah, they have. I've seen a couple of them because they post them, and I'm blown away because it's like, you know, I bust out a trick that only I've ever done, and then all of a sudden you do it. I'm like,
oh fuck, he's doing this, and then going into this. Let me see if I can pull that first try. Boom, and then sometimes they do.
Yeah,
first try,
it blows your mind. You're like, are you serious right now? Yeah,
I have to ask you, what are another one of my favorite Instagram pages right now is a guilty pleasure page. So what are your guilty pleasure pages? And I'll tell you mine to start.
Well, my favorite is Nature is Metal.
Okay.
But
isn't that great?
I freaking love that shit.
It's
like that page is just so raw, and you realize that nature don't give a fuck.
So there's some videos on there that I make myself watch. Like my instinct is to not watch them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? This is fucking reality. It's like my little, like, you know, you already live in a fake world, like where money has meaning and you're actually have an illusion of safety at all times. And this is reality.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
This is what happens. This is what will happen when the power goes out for 72 hours.
Yeah. What do they call that? The Purge, that movie.
Yeah.
That's real life in nature. Like,
yeah, when you watch Nature is Metal, that page will fucking,
yeah.
What's some of the best ones you've seen on that?
Well, I saw one the other day, and I don't even know if this was Nature is Metal, but I thought it was pretty sick. A leopard of some sort, I want to say it was a leopard, was hunting. Like, so it left its cubs, and a giant anaconda came, and they're filming this whole thing. Like, so the anaconda comes to get the cubs, then she comes back and fights it. Like, that was wacky. I don't know if that was on that one because I follow a few of them, but that one was nuts because, I mean, we're talking like a giant snake.
Yeah, like a 15, 20 foot fucking anaconda.
Yeah. So it was fucking crazy because, I mean, it'll just eat the entire cub like it's nothing. You know what I mean? That's not even a large meal for one of those things.
So did it get any of the cubs?
It got one before she came back. And then when she came back, it was, I mean, how do you fight a fucking snake when you're a cat? Think about that.
Yeah, you got to get lucky.
And it can wrap up on, I mean, literally. So it ended up, I mean, the snake bounced, but I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, what the hell is it?
Yeah.
You know, but she also didn't like kill it. It was just enough for it to end, you know, but yeah, I love watching that. That's probably my favorite, where every single time I pass it, I stop.
Yeah, I always stop. I looked at a great one the other day on Nature's Metal. It was a lion, and he was sitting there looking right at the camera, and he was all ripped up and covered in blood. And he was looking at the camera, and it was a carousel. And then the next photo was like this water buffalo laying on its side. And then there was some footage of them fighting.
Right.
And it said the lion attacked the water buffalo because it was by itself.
Right.
And they fought for over an hour.
Didn't they both die?
Yeah. And they kept taking breaks. Like they would take a break and like the lion would just like walk circles around them. and they would get
Yep.
their breath, and then they would fight again. And the water buffalo died from infection, and the lion killed the water buffalo, and then the lion died from its wounds because the water buffalo gored it a bunch of times, so it punched a bunch of holes in it. But it's fucking brutal, and they're both dead.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was how they ended it, right?
So then the guilty pleasure page for me is, I think it's drunk girls getting hurt.
Oh my God. I might need to check this one out.
Or is it just girls getting hurt? I don't know. It might as well be. Yeah, it's just girls getting hurt.
As I'm adding it right now.
900,000 followers.
Half women.
And some of them are hilarious. Obviously, some of them are stupid, but some of them are like, you know, pretty like close calls. You're like, oh, you know, some drunk chick dancing on a table, and like, you know, the table collapses and she falls over the fucking balcony railing. You know, like just crazy, like.
I freaking I just pulled it up just to see, and it's like you can already like some of them you can see right there. No, I could definitely see enjoying some of those.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. There's a bunch of good ones, but that's my latest guilty pleasure page.
Yeah, see, I got to get on your level. I mean, the stuff that I like, which is always like animal shit. I like that. Do you follow that Dean Schneider that owns that has his own like in Africa area where he's got lions and tigers and the whole bit, and he like walks out there with them?
I'll have to follow him.
Oh my God, he's awesome. Dean, like his is enormous. What is it? Dean Schneider. He has 9.7 million followers.
Oh damn. Okay, awesome. Following now.
Yeah, his is wacky, but like he's right there in them. I mean, he goes in with hyenas, with the lions, the whole bit, just out there laying with them, and you know, it's nuts. I mean, I don't know how the hell he got that done, but
you follow Ocean Ramsey, right?
No.
Ocean Ramsey. You should follow Ocean Ramsey.
What's this?
Her and her husband Juan Sharks, that's his name. They swim with great whites, and they like touch them.
Oh,
and
no shit.
Yeah, and they're like shark preservationists, and they're experts on shark behavior, so they're not afraid to get in the water with anything. Like they're in the water with tiger sharks, and they're touching them and stuff.
That's wacky. I know Steve-O did that during Shark Week, and
right.
got his hand mangled by a shark. Literally, it's Jesus. I follow him, and yeah, they would do that. Like just jump out there. Like, all right, let's see how this goes. It's like,
no. These people are experts. They know what they're doing. They like, you know, there's like great white sharks that they've dived with so many times. Like they like named the shark, you know? That's so like they've named, they're like, yeah, this giant 2,000 pound great white named, you know, Sarah. And we've seen her, you know, we saw her again the other day, you know, and it's crazy.
That's freaking nuts. All right, look at we're providing a service right now, telling people awesome things to follow.
Trying to make the world a better place. So what I did was I told them about girls getting hurt. And then I know that some people are going to think I'm a terrible person because of that. So then kind of got to make
transition to saving sharks.
Shark preservation. There
preservation, you go. Yeah. That's, I mean, okay. No one's even going to remember that, you know, or that I didn't wear masks. It's all fine.
So, okay. You got it. What's your next question? What's your next word that I didn't wear?
You're all shit. We got to get back. We're derailing again.
Okay.
This is what we do. Here we go. This is actually, this is a good question, actually. Post-show rebound. Do you blast anabolics for a few more weeks to maximize rebound, or you start your PCT right away? PCP, Jesus.
What I always did and what I advise guys to do is to go down to immediately get off of everything except for like a bit of test.
Yeah.
And for some guys, maybe it's like, you know, a bit more than HRT. For some guys, maybe it's just go right down to like a 250, you know, TRT plus. and ride that for 4 to 6 weeks, and you will have plenty of rebound. You don't need a bunch of drugs. Literally just being in a good testosterone environment and eating again is going to be more than enough to, I always like, I wanted to get off stuff. I mean, you've already been on stuff. Let's face it. You've been cranking fucking 4 months at that point, sometimes 5 months or 6 months, you know? And
yeah, especially when you have those string of shows where you got like 6 or 8 shows.
Yeah,
6 or 8 weeks
yeah.
them.
You just get off everything. Just get off everything. The quicker, the better. But I would say on a bit of test, because that's where all the magical rebound is. And then I would, you know, go off.
I always ran 400 for like a month after the show.
That's what
truthfully,
I mean. That's about it.
I think the other problem is I don't know why, and I think you might be the same, but taking my shots is the thing I hate more than anything. Eating meals 6-7 times a day, I can do that day in, day out. For whatever reason, I'm lazy when it comes to not wanting to do that. I don't know what it is, but I'm just
I was always the same. I'll admit, I often like purposely structured my cycle so I had fewer shot days. Like I'd be like, I don't want to add that drug. It's like too much administration. Like
I have to do that 3 times a week. I'm out.
Yeah, no, not doing it. Not doing that. You know, like I remember I had a real bottle of test suspension once, like a 30 ml bottle of real test suspension from like Upjohn.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like,
I'll
just take 2 amps of Sustanon. I'm fine. And just get rid of it. You know?
Yeah, no, so, I was always the same. Fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that. So yeah, that's my take on that. You know?
Yeah, agreed 100%. And then but you're right. The other thing is I always feel like you got like that slingshot effect. Like the band is held back because you haven't been eating for so long that the moment you reintroduce food, your body is just like, I mean, it's the same thing I'm doing right now.
It doesn't even have to be a lot of food. Like literally just go into a calorie surplus for the first time, like for a sustained period of time for the first time in 5 months.
Oh yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I think we've covered this, but I'm going to answer it anyways. Do you think that waist trainers work? And if so, what do you think are the best ones?
I don't really know anything about anything to do with waist trainers. I'm not convinced that they do what people think they do. I know that back in the whatever year that was when Victorian people were wearing waist trainers and actually shrinking their waist, they were wearing them like unbelievably tight for extremely long periods of time. Mm-hmm. So like that's like a body modification thing. So I know that some people are working on them. I know you've done stuff with them before, haven't you? I think, and I know Fuad has played around with them and stuff. So I'd have to defer to you guys for any kind of experience. I haven't seen any data that made me like go, oh my God, I should have a waist trainer on. And I've always been kind of concerned with core strength and wanting to make sure core strength was optimal for just being a bodybuilder, you know, good enough to train and be functional. And I also kind of was gifted with a small waist when it came to being on stage. So I just never really had
you didn't have to think about it.
I never got to the point where I was really concerned. Like even in the off season, if I was like bloated from food, it would all be gone for my show. So I never really had a concern myself. But yeah, that's my little thing on waist trainers. What do you got to say on them?
I mean, the biggest thing I find is it makes you cognizant of relaxing your gut. Like you'll see oftentimes bodybuilders, because we eat a lot and everything, you'll see guys where you see them, their stomach is just hanging out. They're not fat. They're literally just
standing
lazy.
there talking.
They're just letting their stomach hang.
Yeah.
When you wear one often, it's restricting. And if you just let your body relax, it's uncomfortable. It pushes into it. So you start to hold your stomach in on your own all the time. Then you'll find when you don't wear it, you continue to do that. I mean, that's the most I really see out of it. It's more gut control. Because like I said, if you're sitting in your car and then you let your stomach go, it's uncomfortable. That thing is right there pushing back against it. So you naturally just hold your stomach in like you should have anyway. So Nothing drastic.
So,
And actually,
so
Santi Aragon makes one that I love. So I use his all the time, that Paragon waist trainer.
okay.
That's what I suggest to everybody.
So technically, from what you're describing, that sounds like it has nothing to do with actually shaping the waist. It has to do with like a nervous system cue. And
Yes.
and it would almost be more useful for a big bodybuilder than it would be for like a bikini girl to wear one all day.
Oh, I absolutely think so. I mean, I think that listen, I have them. And when I really want to cinch them and I'm in prep and I'm really trying, I wear two because I can't get it tight enough that it has the effect, like you said, of those Victorian days. So I wear two just so I literally can't just push into it and it move. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't see the sides of my body coming in or anything like that, east to west, so to speak. It's more just, gut control. I'm wide enough in the waist that I actually can use a compass to describe the two sides of my body. That's how genetically gifted my waistline is.
I love it.
But yeah, no, I actually do. I think they work in that regard. And I mean, again, like you said, I don't have data to support that, but I used them enough to look and say, well, I didn't look noticeably, shoulder to shoulder width sort of way smaller in my waistline. I've got much better looking waist now just from being in a coma for a month and not eating or moving. And now it's like, now I can keep it there. It's a little bit different. Now this feels like something I can do versus trying to, turn back the hands of time. Right.
Okay. Very interesting, Dusty.
Yes. And it's, none of it is factual. It's just what I think. I like to roll that out before somebody comes in and goes, well, actually, I'm like, listen, bro,
I like when someone comes at us in the comments, like we'll say something like, yeah, you never know. That might be what's going on.
Yeah. Like, and then they fucking hammer you.
And then they're like, he's wrong, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah. If only I cared, which I do not. Oh, this is an important one. Your favorite Ninja Turtle.
Oh, well, let's make sure I can name them all. You got Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello.
Yes.
And Donatello had the bow staff.
And the purple. Yes.
And then Leonardo, wasn't he the blue?
Blue with the sword.
And he had a sword.
Yes.
And then Leonardo had the red and the two sai.
Yes.
The two sai. Is that
I forgot
him?
what those are called. I forgot they're called, but yes. Look at you.
Yeah, those little stabby swords that he had. The little prongs.
Like a little pitchfork with an extra stick.
And then Michelangelo, what was yellow and he had nunchucks, right?
Orange
with nunchucks.
Yes.
Am I correct?
You are. You nailed it.
Damn.
And Michelangelo was like the party one, remember?
Yeah. That's funny. So I remember my main Ninja Turtle thing was this one arcade game that they had that had 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd go to the arcade and sometimes there'd already be people on it. So you just hop in. It was very COVID friendly. There was 4 people in like a little 5 foot
socially touch everyone in your space.
Yeah, yes. You're like shoulder to shoulder with strangers playing Ninja Turtles. But yeah, that's funny. Who is my favorite one? That's funny. I never really thought about it. I always thought about their weapons.
I think it's pathetic that I had my answer like immediately. I was like, Michelangelo.
I always liked the weapons. I would always pick. Was it Michelangelo who had the nunchucks? That's who I would always pick.
Yeah. So
that was my guy. There you go.
Yeah, I consider it terrible that I looked at it as soon as I read that. I was like, duh. Like,
that's funny. So how was my answer? That was acceptable. Okay.
Absolutely. It absolutely is acceptable. And that's a good question there, Riley. Training and nutrition. Good call.
Favorite Ninja Turtle.
Yes. No.
I like those, Dusty. Those are funny. The pop culture questions, I think, are my favorite.
Oh yeah. Well, half the time they're like out of my league and I can barely answer.
Hey,
And you know them really, really well.
so my advice to everyone is to watch the Quentin Tarantino interview on Joe Rogan.
Really. And why
Yeah,
is this? I don't know where.
it's just awesome. Well, I'm a Tarantino fan because I'm a movie fan and I love all of his movies. And I've been waiting for him to be on Rogan, like
When was he on?
year,
Just barely?
just like a week ago.
Oh, no shit. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I've been waiting for him to come on for ages and wondering why he hasn't been on. And all of a sudden he shows up on Rogan. And it was one of my favorite episodes for a while. There was some great, like, he kind of talks about, he's only made 9 movies.
Right. How about that though? He's like created his own little genre, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he's only done 9 movies.
He's got his own brand of movies and he's only done 9. And I guess his goal is to make 10 movies and retire. He's only got 1 left.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And Joe's like, why do you want to do that? And he's like, I don't want to be that director that makes that one crappy movie after he's already made a bunch of great ones. I want to drop the mic and just fucking go play with my kids. So, he's going to write another couple of books and 1 more play. And then he's going to do his 10th movie. So it'll be a few years.
Does he know what it is yet, or is that going to come up?
No, but so Joe was like, well, how can you top Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Right.
Like that was a fantastic movie. And he goes, oh, no, that's my masterpiece. He goes, my 10th movie will be my epilogue, which a lot of people don't even know what that means, but it's like the kind of like after the story's ended, like, you know, the main character, like it's like so Quentin speaks in old television and movie references. Okay. So the way our generation use his movies as like references, he does that with the stuff he grew up on. So like all the detective shows that he grew up on, you know, you'd watch them and, you know, the criminal would get caught at like the 23-minute mark.
Right.
Right. And you know that they're going to go to commercial and then there's going to be like another minute of show before the credits.
Right.
And that's the epilogue, the little where they just kind of tie up all the little loose ends after it's over with, you know?
Right.
And he's like, my last movie is going to be like that. It's just going to be like, there you go. It's not going to be bigger than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He said that was the big one. Yeah. Plus Hateful Eight. He said those 2 movies were so huge for him. Like in making them, they like, and another thing, there were so many cool stories. Like Kill Bill was supposed to be 1 movie. And he just kept filming this amazing footage and these crazy scenes. And he just kept getting so many good scenes. And he was kind of writing it as he was going. He would rewrite stuff and he had all this amazing stuff. And one day he said Weinstein, because he worked with Harvey Weinstein for every single movie.
Right. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Like Harvey Weinstein funded his entire career and he was like extremely close friends with him. And so that came up too, which was really weird. But anyways, he said Weinstein comes down to the set and he goes, you know, Quentin, I've seen a bunch of the dailies, you know, the little clips from good scenes they've, you know, shot. And he's like, it's a real shame. You're going to have to cut any of this out, you know? And Quentin's like, I know it's going to be really tough to get it down to like 3 hours.
Right.
And Weinstein goes, why don't you just do 2 movies? And Tarantino said he was literally just about to go shoot a scene. So Weinstein goes, why don't you turn it into 2 movies? And he literally goes, hold that thought. And he like turns and like, you know, shoots for another 20 minutes or whatever.
Right.
And they, you know, cut, you know, that's the scene, goes back to Harvey and goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like he already had it in his head the whole time he was shooting. He was putting together the concept of 2 movies.
Right.
He's like, oh shit, if they're 2 movies, it got to be a year apart. And we got to move the ending of the first movie to this point in the movie. And we got to, so he just went to Harvey and he's like, okay, I got it. Here it is. Boom. And he's like, here's what we'll do. And he was already like almost done filming.
No shit.
So it was like it was just the only reason he did 2 movies was because he didn't want to cut out any of the scenes.
That's freaking wacky. I'm always blown away hearing I would love to get the backstory on like so many movies. You know, like I saw Matthew McConaughey explain his first role and how it was supposed to be a non-speaking part, and it just kept evolving. Like,
Yeah, are you
get
talking
one
about
line.
Dazed and Confused?
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that a great story?
Yeah, it blew my freaking mind. I was like, wait a minute. Like, you know, and even like his most famous line, they all right, wasn't supposed to be that.
Wasn't it just supposed to be all right or something
Yes.
like that?
Yeah, and then
All
he
right.
just did it.
Yeah.
And they were like, there it is. Yeah, his entire part was
just kept, and it
after
kept
they
growing.
cast him, they kept just back. Like you said, they just kept, you know, it's like they were writing the movie during. They're like, oh fuck, we need that guy back.
Yeah, and then the line that they had, like, that's what I like about high school girls or whatever.
I keep getting older. They keep staying the same age.
Yeah. So like that line was like written for him because they wanted to give him another line.
Yeah.
And they're like, this creepy old guy, what's he going to say? And they're like, let's have him say this. And it'd be, yeah, it's like, you know,
that's my favorite line of the entire movie. I love that when I say that and people don't know what it is. I'm like, how do you not know that?
Yeah. So I said it the other day as like a joke. Right. And I could tell that someone in my presence had no idea it was a movie reference. And if you think about that like for a second,
that's how I feel when I go to local bodybuilding shows now. I'm like,
oh no, no one understands me anymore.
Yeah. This is not good. It sounds like I got a thing for high school kids.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I was actually talking about this like, you know, he's like, I don't know, probably about 28.
Right.
But he's always talking to like the young girls at the gym. So he's not like, so it kind of matches, like, you know, and I was like, so I was kind of making fun of him and I was like, that's what I love about high school girls. And I said the line, right? Yeah.
You know, what's funny is I've done that in the gym. Like I saw a girl
hit on the 18-year-olds.
No, literally, I have to go the other route with it. So I saw a girl miss on a pendulum one day, and I mean it buried her. So I came over and I was like, "Hey, if you need a spot or anything at any point, just let me know." And I said, "And I'm aware I'm an old guy and I'm not hitting on you." I just say it out loud, like I'm literally just offering to help you.
You're gonna see me train. You're gonna see me train, and you're gonna realize that I just think spotters are important.
Because it was funny. I was like, I gotta say this, but I'm not cute girl. Right. I promise. I'm ancient and I know better, so we're good.
Right. Hey, you know, it's funny. Stuff happens. Like, you know, I'm one of the owners of the gym, right? So the other day I'm training, and there's this new girl in there, and I don't know how old she is. She's young, right?
Right.
Probably like, let's say 20. And I see her squatting, and she's got 2 plates aside on, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good squat for a chick, you know, like not a lot of chicks squat 2 plates, right?
Yeah.
And then I watch her do multiple sets of perfect 5s.
Right.
So she's like doing a powerlifting program, right?
Yeah.
But she nails multiple sets of 5 with 2 plates. And I mean, she just looks like she's just out of high school by a year or so.
Right.
So I walk over to her after she's done. I wait till she's like putting her plates away, and I walk over and I'm like, hey, like, you know, that very good squatting. And there's like, she's like, oh, thanks. And then I was like, oh, I'm one of the owners, by the way. And then right away she was like, oh, thank you. Awesome. I'm happy to meet you.
It became a lot less weird.
Yeah, it became a lot less weird when I was like, oh, I'm one of the owners. I'm just like, I like to, you know, when I see people and they're training hard, like I love it. It's one of my favorite things. You know, you see someone new sign up to the gym and you see them in there like soaking wet and they're just giving her, and you're like, fucking awesome. Cause then they're adding to the community, right?
Oh, for sure.
So
you know, it's funny how you have to in a lot of situations I have had to find myself like pre-explaining myself before I ask a question or make a statement so many times in my life.
Right.
When Evian did a show at one point and she wanted to get new implants, and there was a girl at the show who basically had the size she wanted, and she shopped in one of my stores. So
okay.
So she comes into my store, and it's funny because it was nighttime, and this particular store was like a fishbowl. Like when you were looking from the outside, you could just see everything that was going on in the store. So she comes in, and I'm on the other side of the counter, and we had like a taller countertop. And I said, hey, this is going to be really weird. I said, but do you remember when you competed a couple weeks ago, this girl, Evian? And she's like, yeah. I go, well, that's my wife. and she wants to get implants like yours. What size are they? Right. And so I made sure to like preface, like, here we go. And she goes, oh, no problem at all. They're 700 cc's. Boom, boom, boom. She's talking. She unzips her top, pulls them out. And she goes, as you can see, they're kind of up. I mean, feel them though. They're a little firm. I'm like, I'm not fucking reaching over this counter and grabbing your tits. And I mean, I'm looking outside the whole time like, oh my God, this is happening in the middle of my store. And then she's like, I'm actually a dancer at the highlighter. If you guys want to come by, and she can feel them and whatever. And I'm like, I fucking love this idea.
At the highlighter.
Yeah. And we did go, by the way. So yeah, that was great.
Oh, of course. Yes. Well, you do it. Well, Dusty,
it was research purposes.
You're doing consumer research.
That's all it was. I was researching, but dude, I will never forget. Like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh, you're topless. Shit.
Would you buy?
Everyone can see.
Yeah. Well, you're not gonna spend $10,000 on something without like doing a lap around the parking lot.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, can I motorboat them? I mean, are they built for speed or comfort? I had to figure it out. Like, but yeah. Do you remember that from Wedding Crashers?
Yes.
That is also the movie. It's like, yeah. So yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. As I find myself constantly having to apologize for what I'm about to say.
Right.
Here it comes. I'm doing this anyways, and I shouldn't, but here we go.
I'm one of the owners.
Exactly. It's okay that I came over and that's your first day here, and I'm up here to be hitting on you.
No. It's okay. No, that was
you
all
see me all the time. It'll be awkward.
But I think we've sort of like. Do you feel like you've had to explain yourself a little bit just because you're a bodybuilder for like your whole life?
Well, and I'm me, and I say shit I shouldn't say. So
right. So the double combo. Your personality to begin with
default
requires a certain amount of apology.
Exactly. I mean, trust me, I feel terrible when my poor mom, when I was sick, I come through and she's got a list. She's like, these 77 women were checking in on you. I'm like, oh, this is awkward.
Most of them just asking if you're dead yet.
Because if not, I could come help. Wait, what?
The way they worded it was very concerning to me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Painfully accurate right there. I can't even lie to you. Yeah. Poor Tommy and Matt had to do a lot of deflecting and changing directions.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
There wasn't enough years in my life for it all to make sense. Wait a minute.
But you and I have the same amount of time as him. How does he manage this?
98? What do you mean 98?
Yes, I know. Very impressive.
Yes.
Okay.
What does it even mean?
What's next?
Okay. Geez, I've totally derailed. Oh. Okay. I want to answer this one just because. Just trying to get rid of water weight and swelling. I use dandelion root, just don't know what else to use. Now,
so what's the context to this? Is this post show or do they have like heart failure?
See, that's the thing is, I mean, because I didn't get any context, I'm going to assume it's post show. And actually I have an example for this, so I'm going to use it in a story. So I had a surgeon that I prepped for a show one time. I don't even know what it's called. What's a cancer surgeon called?
An oncologist?
Yes. So he's a very well-known oncologist here.
Is that it?
Did it? I did it.
I don't know if I'm right.
No, as soon as you said it, clicked. So it's got to be it.
Okay.
So he does a show. We end. He did well. About 4 days after the show, he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, but I've got crazy edema in my legs and this and that." And he goes, "We've already done Lasix and that didn't work and this and that." And I was like, "Well, you're dehydrated. Can I suggest drinking 3 gallons of water for the next 2 days?"
Yeah.
2 days later, I get a text. "I'm an idiot. Thank you." And it made me laugh because he's talking to a bunch of doctors. And of course, the first thing they want to do is throw a pill at him. And I'm like, well, since the show ended, you probably went from drinking a couple gallons a day to drinking beer and nothing. So that's the answer. So my answer to this kid, assuming it's post show, is A, drink a bunch of water. If that doesn't work, have your heart looked at. Like,
I would say 6 to 8
yeah.
liters a day just to be safe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rule with my clients every day. 6 liters is like a minimum. And it fascinates me that some people have a hard time with it. I'm like, should I get that down? And like, by the time I'm heading to the gym.
Right. I do. I think I do about 8 liters of fluid on an average day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when we started the show, it was 10:30, and I have more than a gallon down already. Plus,
oh, I'm just like almost 2 liters in. But I had a giant coffee. My coffee was like half a liter.
Well, you forget I wake up at 5 a.m.
Right. You got a head start.
I've got some time on you. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Any tips with lowering red blood cell width variable percentage?
What was that?
That's the part that threw me off. I got the red blood cell, and I got any tips with lowering red blood cell width variable percentage? I don't even know what that means.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure what that last part means. If you want less red blood cells.
Let's donate blood, but
I don't know. I that seems like it's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I jumped on it quickly when I saw the beginning part. And then as I finished the question, I'm like, I don't know the answer to this. Never mind.
Right. But donate blood.
Yes.
Go donate blood and see if there's still a problem.
Let's see. Oh. Is it bad to take a protein powder that had soy in it? A lot of them do.
A lot of them do?
Apparently. None of mine do, but
I think it's unbelievably easy to find one that doesn't. Just get a good whey isolate. You know? I'm not a fan of soy. I'm not a fan of soy. I don't think soy is like going to like turn you into a woman or anything like that, but I'm just not a fan of soy. I'm suspect of it for causing issues. I don't ingest any myself, and I would just avoid it. Yeah, and I've also seen people that go from like, they're like, I'm going to quit eating meat. And then they start eating like a whole bunch of soy products and they have all these problems. Like, oh, my stomach hurts all the time and I can't shit. And, you know, like they just have all these problems. And they didn't have any of them when they were just eating like chicken and fish, you know? So.
Let's see. Jeez.
Yeah, that stuff drives me crazy.
Can you put more than one compound in a syringe? Of course you can.
Of course you can. As long as it's the same medium, the same, like it has to be oil.
Right. Yeah.
You can't. I remember I knew a guy, he put like a mill of Winstrol with a mill of Sustanon. So it was like water and oil. Because he thought, oh, it won't matter. The water will just float on top of oil.
Yeah.
And they'll just push them in and they'll just go in and they'll just float around. It won't matter. But then he had all these little air bubbles trapped in because, you know, like they get stuck and no matter how many times you flick them, they're not coming out of the water oil mixture, you know.
And it's funny because I would never do that. So I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So he said there was no way. It just fucked up his shot.
Yeah, well, on that note, I also don't suggest taking injectable Winstraws, so that's just me.
Well, hey, listen, this was back in the 90s.
Well, while we're on the subject, since that almost killed one of my shows at one point.
Yeah.
One of these days, I need to post that picture. My arm just fucking exploded. Your arm all swelled up? Oh, no, it swelled up, and then it was like I had a burn or something. My skin melted from the outside. Like it just fell off. You know, and then discolored, like it was, if anybody wants to go look, and that's, we talked about this before, it's the reason people think there's shit in my arms. It's because of that shot. I actually have like a permanent point. But yeah, if you go back to the 2013 USAs and you look at my pictures, you can actually see that my left tricep is darker than the rest of my body because it was bruised still. Or I couldn't call it bruised, but it was discolored. It was technically a bruise.
Yeah, so even with the tan on, it was like a different color.
Yeah, you could see it. And I was like, well, we'll see. Like, here's what we got to do. Well, this is interesting. This is an easy one for me, but would you rather have a tiny pee-pee with big balls or tiny balls with a big pee-pee? You actually called it a pee-pee, by the way. And that's just such an easy answer for me, but
That's such an
I feel
easy
like
answer. Steak over potatoes. Hey,
Ron with his fucking lines.
most girls are on the low carb diets nowadays, anyways. Right?
God, you're just gonna keep rolling here. You had me at steak over potatoes, but then you went into carbs. I mean, this is good. He's trying to help your diet, ladies. That's all he's
No
doing
one
here.
cares about your carbs.
Oh my God, that's great.
No one cares.
This is great. This guy asked, how long did the hole in your neck take to heal?
Yeah, how long did it officially take to close up?
It was maybe 2.5 weeks from when I got out. I don't know how. See, I don't know when they pulled it out because I was asleep or whatever. But it was still a hole when I came out, and there was a point. Actually, it was when we were on the show. Remember, which nobody saw because I was so terrible that episode. But we recorded with Turner Riddle. I'm just telling people what happened, and I was so off the wall at this point still mentally that like we had to throw away the episode because it was terrible. But I had to keep my finger over my trach to talk because it would whistle. Remember? So I'd be like, the whole time I was like this. Man. It was so bad, but and the worst part is it wasn't the whistle that we had to end the episode for. It's because I was fucking all over the place. But
oh, dude,
it's funny because I actually whistling. Oh well, you know what's great is so Dom, my one of my tissue guys, he would come over here to do all my work, and when I would move to get up and breathe, it would make a sound, and my dogs hated it, so they would like get freaked out because it was literally like a whistle sound coming out of my throat, almost like a wheeze. Every time I moved, I'm like, fuck.
So do you remember the day it stopped, like making any noise, and you could feel that it was closed?
Yeah, I can remember when I just remembered going, oh, good, I don't have to do that anymore. Because it was, even in the night, you know, when you like shift and move, I would hear it. And I'm like, God, like this is terrible. But then I'm stoked too, because it's literally, it looks like nothing now. It looks like I got a cut.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that sucks is sometimes like, and I don't know what it is. It's not always, but like if I swallow, sometimes I feel like my entire neck moves and you can see it, but whatever. The least of my concerns. But it was funny because when I got it, a lot of people were worried I was going to care. And I'm like, it's character. I was never pretty to begin with. But actually, I used to go out when I first got it, when I first got out, me being me, I was never really covering it up. So it looked like somebody put a freaking cigar out on my throat. I'm just walking around town with it like it's nothing. I would see people's face. They're like, oh, what the fuck happened to him? But yeah. So,
see, I don't know, it's really weird. Just say it's a really weird herpes.
Yeah, you should have seen what I was doing.
On my neck.
Should have seen what I was doing when it happened.
Right. Who could have thought you got it there?
Oh my God, this is great. I have to say this just because it was asked. Do you IM intramuscular in your delt? If so, can you show how to do it? No, I cannot.
Oh God. YouTube people. There's YouTube for this.
Yeah. No, I cannot show you how to do that. I am sorry. Oh, that's funny. Somebody asked, will the interview with John Meadows ever be recovered? No, it will not, but it will be I don't know how you call it redone. We're going to see John again at some point.
We're just going to have John on for a third time.
For a third time, a second time.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, here's a good one. I'm actually curious your answer. Anadrol in the off season, is it worth it? Worth it's a funny word, but do you suggest Anadrol in the off season? What I'm going to say.
I don't know. I mean, Anadrol can be fun. It can be fun. Like, hey, I took Anadrol in the off season a few times. It wasn't one of my go-tos. I felt like it was more of a maximize your fullness and strength kind of a thing for the off season. I didn't really think it was like, you know, it was one of those things where you go off of it and you feel like you always lose like the fullness you had on it. It's like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't think Anadrol is like the best drug for building muscle, but it's a great drug for training and like being big and maximizing fullness and all that stuff. I actually found it was funny. I always thought of Anadrol as an off-season only drug for most of my years. And
Right.
then when I worked with Chris, we would use Anadrol for like really short little periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He'd be like, okay, let's do a high day and let's run Anadrol for 5 days and send me pictures.
Yeah.
And then I might go off of it again. And like, I don't know, it was just like that. But then I found doing it that way, I loved it because I wasn't like blown up or bloated or anything, So
Yeah, I didn't mind it in the prep times because Anadrol, the reason I could do it at the off season, it killed my appetite.
well, yeah, there you go.
So everything all the benefits of it got lost because I had such a hard time putting the food down that I can honestly say I didn't always get all my food down. So that's when I was like, that doesn't work.
Right.
Like,
And it's funny because when I was young and I took it in the off season, like I remember I had some real Anadrol back in the 90s.
mm-hmm.
But I was not following any kind of diet. So I could just like, when I say that, I mean like modern diet. It was off season. So I could just get my calories in.
Yeah,
So,
McDonald's knocked down.
so if Anadrol was like affecting my appetite, I'd just be like, oh, well, what do we got to do? Let's just get these fucking calories in,
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't thinking about the same type of calories.
You're not sitting there shoveling like 3 cups of rice with 20 ounces of beef or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Team Fork.
When you went to college, did you play sports in college?
No, I
Okay.
took 2 years of college for business and then I dropped out because I was stupid.
Because you were
And now
stupid or because it was stupid?
because I thought it was stupid. I'm like, they're
Right.
just teaching you how to work for somebody. I thought this was supposed to be for business. Right?
It's so accurate. It's so damn accurate. It's painful.
Because there was, I remember when I went to college for business, there were like some classes where I was like, oh, this is great. Like we had a marketing class where we had to like, do reports on some companies that, changed their marketing and saved their brand. And we had to research that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like actually useful. Like I'm learning a bunch of stuff about what companies did to like, save themselves. And like, there was like some cool classes. And then there was just all these classes. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to do anything that has to do with this class.
That's, what's funny is when I went to college, first off, I went to college with zero intention of ever graduating. I went to learn stuff I wanted to learn. And it was so funny because I went in and the counselor couldn't wrap her head around it. I was like, no, I'm not here to graduate. I just want to take these courses that a friend of mine took and I heard they're great. Well, you're going to need these to get your associates. I'm like, I'm not going to get a degree. I don't need it. Like,
right. That's funny.
You're missing the point here, lady. Like I have no intention of getting a degree whatsoever.
How's this? I remember after my first year of college, I was like, I find it really strange that I haven't been taught how to open a business yet. Like I just took the first year of business and no one talked to me about opening a business. Like, I don't know how to get a business license. I don't know how to go, like, who do I call? Like, do I just call the city? Like, what the fuck do I do? Do I need a health permit? How do I get that? How do I negotiate rent? I need a fucking location. How do I, like, all those questions? I was like, this is fucking stupid. I was like, well, maybe they'll teach us in the second year. And then
so by the time the second year was over, you realized you didn't need to be there anymore.
Yeah. And at first, yeah. And I was like, fuck this. So I just left. And now I have 2 businesses. So there you go.
I think that's what's funny is that I don't know if I've said that here before, but that's how I got to where I am is my dad literally told me. So I wanted to get a job with his company because he made a lot of money and I wanted to make a lot of money. So it just seemed like a good idea. And I went through an interview, I was going to get on kind of like a base level and then go to school during and I was good to go until it hit his desk. And then he was like, no, I'm not hiring you. Like, what do you mean you're not going to hire me? And he's like, you're unemployable. You're disagreeable. I don't want you to work for me. He's like, you need to own your own business. You are not an employable person. And I was like, oh,
well, your dad did you an immense favor there and he saved you a bunch of time.
Oh, for sure. And then what's funny is once I learned he hated his job, he worked because just like everybody else, he trapped himself with money. And, when I don't know if you know about this, but when you own a business, I call it the golden handcuffs. If I give someone a raise and then they go buy a new car, I'm like, good. Now you're here. Like,
Right.
So, and that's what I say Americans, but I mean, maybe it's across the world, but that's what Americans do. They make more money, they spend more money, and then they can't get out. They can never go do something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're making 150 a year and you hate it, but there's a job you would love to do that would make your life better at 80 and you can't do it. You can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a funny thing, but yeah, I think school is for people. I mean, it doesn't hurt you to go and maybe have some time as you figure out what you're doing with your life.
Oh yeah.
But I thought the same thing. It didn't directly correlate. And I learned so much by having my ass in the frying pan. Like, all right, here we go.
Right.
How do you do this? Nobody, same with you. Like, I just bought a business. I just negotiated and did my thing and got a loan and all right, let's see how this works.
I think the reason why I never felt like, I understand a lot of people come from a family or a culture or whatever, where they feel like they have to get a college degree. Mm-hmm. But I just was never really was told that really. I was told like, you have to be productive and you have to work at something. Those were like things. Right. Yeah. And, but the main thing was, if I thought college was directly linked to making more money, then I probably would have been more motivated to finish it. But I know that they say statistically people with college degrees make more money, right? Statistically. I mean, obviously the data shows that, but I just didn't see that around me. I was growing up in northern Alberta. All the guys that were making money around me were welders and pipe fitters.
Yep.
And like, I went to school with a guy who, like, fresh out of high school. He had a couple of welding trucks and now he's, living on a $5 million estate outside of the city with a huge welding company, 30 years later, and, those were like a lot of the people that I saw making money were all the guys that went into the trades and stuff. So I just never had a college equals income connection, and then all my idols were pro bodybuilders and, I just didn't give a fuck. I was like, fuck, whatever. Like, so yeah. And then everyone I met, like, I started making friends I started meeting these guys that had businesses, and I'd go, how'd you start this business? And it was always the same story. It was like, man, I just fucking worked my fucking ass off for 3 years straight when we opened.
Yep.
That's a story. No guts, no glory.
I've told multiple kids that have reached out. I shouldn't say kids, but people who've reached out to me, and they're like, how do I know this is going to work? And I would tell them, they would ask me how I knew my business was going to work. And I said, because it had to.
It has to.
Because my other option was bankruptcy, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make this work. And so it did every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That was just what I saw, and my dad, of course, was, I grew up pretty lucky. Like, my mom and dad did well. They farmed their ass off. We had a lot of land, so, they were, to me, a success story,
For sure.
I thought I grew up a lot more, privileged than a lot of kids around me. So, I just didn't see college as something you needed.
Right.
And then my brother went to med school, and it was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But the pressure didn't fall on me. It was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Your brother went to med school. Awesome. Right. Like, no one ever said, so what are you going to do with your life? Like, I just never had any of that pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I never did either. And I never knew where I was going to end up. So it just kind of worked.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were moments in my life that my parents were like, Jesus, I hope this kid figures it out.
Yeah. If I had to go to school, obviously I'd have to take something that I was interested in. Yeah. So it would probably wind up being, something science related. I think most likely.
I would have just done it. If I had to do something, it would have been a trade school, like you said. And I would have ended up right back. Yeah. I would have ended up right back where I am, owning something, right. Like you start to realize, and it's funny, but I was some of these stories I can't actually tell here, but I was running businesses since I was a kid. I just didn't realize it, So like when I was in high school, I didn't really like writing papers. and I'm not a great, like my English as far as punctuation and shit like that's terrible. But I found a girl who would write my papers for me for $10 a piece. So I would buy 3 of them from her and sell the other 2 for $20 a piece. So I would just make money, and it never really clicked on me what I was doing. It just made sense. Like, why would I spend $10 if I can make 10? You know what I mean? If I can make 30. So I have so many of those that were like default, where it's like that's just the way the mind worked. I'm like, oh, well, I guess it makes sense that I would find a way to do that.
I remember doing things to make a buck. That's so funny that you just reminded me of something that I hadn't thought of in years. But I remember like a couple times where I would, I needed something, so I would order 2 and then I would sell one. Like, so I remember one time I wanted a pair of handlebars for my BMX. I was like 15. Fuck, it's so funny that I forgot about this.
Full circle.
And I wanted these new bars, and I was like, fuck, they're going to be kind of expensive with shipping and stuff. And then I knew another kid who rode, and he was like, yeah, I want those bars too. And I was like, well, how much would you pay for them? And he told me, and I was like, wait, that covers half the expense of my bars. And I was like, oh. So I was like, I can get them. And then I ordered them.
Make this happen.
Yeah. But like, this is
back
old
then
school.
It wasn't internet. Yeah. It's not like the guy could search it himself real quick.
You had to call the company and give them your mom's credit card number over the phone and tell them your address, and they would ship them out to you. Right. Like old school.
There's kids here going, you did what?
Yeah. So I got my bars for like, $40 instead of $80 because he paid $100 for his, or whatever it worked out to.
Yeah. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Cover the shit.
So I always had a little bit of that. And I remember my dad, like I'd sit around the table and I'd hear my dad talking about farming, right? And I remember, there was this point in time, kind of a long story, but you had to sell your grain to the Alberta wheat pool. That was like it was like the government, like you sold your grain to the government, right? And then they shipped them out. But then there was like a bunch of changes, and there were these other methods of selling your grain. You could load them onto train cars yourself if you started a corporation and all this. So I remember my dad going through this thing where him and these other farmers formed a corporation, and then they were loading their grain directly onto rail cars to bypass the initial sale
at the middleman.
Yeah, and they're making better money. So I remember like growing up around that and hearing my dad talk about that. Yeah, we got to set up a corp, and we're going to do this and move this money here, and it's less taxes. And so I was lucky that I had a little bit of influence. Be like, you got to fucking figure it out. No one else is doing this, but he's doing this.
Yeah.
I think dodging taxes.
That's what's cool. Well, I mean, tax avoidance is legal. Tax evasion is not.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'll go you one better. Tax avoidance is your responsibility.
True.
Yes.
Very true.
They've set up the system. They have set up the system for themselves to make insane amounts of money and dodge taxes. They set it up. Yep. It's your responsibility to exploit it, or else they're using it and you're not. They're the ones who made it.
Yeah, you're playing by the rules. That's what I always say when people, they talk about, people not paying taxes on this and that. I'm like, no, you don't understand how the game works.
Yeah, they set this up themselves so that they can avoid as much tax as possible. And then they're going to give you the look like, you set up another company in another country? That's a little bit. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're all doing. That's what the people you voted for do.
Yeah. Yes, I did what you did.
Yes. It's funny.
It's very simple, really.
That's actually a shirt. So I was talking about this today.
It's actually a shirt.
So I was just talking with a really close friend of mine about how you can tell what your own mental health is like by looking at the ads that you're getting on your Instagram feed. Because it reflects, right? So I joked that what I get in my Instagram feed for ads are like AC/DC memorabilia,
right,
and BMX parts, and the bodybuilding bullshit. And then I get all this stuff for like, I don't know if I'm liking too many angry posts or whatever. But I'm getting all these like anti-state, destroy the government, fuck your fuck your taxes. Like I'm getting all these shirts that come up
Right.
like, and the one is paying as little tax as possible is your responsibility as a citizen. That's the one that it says on there. It's pretty funny.
That's freaking cool. I just love what you're saying.
Make politicians afraid again.
Yeah, that I've seen that one before. Actually, that's funny. Yeah. Those I've seen. It is funny though, because you're right. What you see, like all I get right now is house stuff because I'm looking at building something, so it's like constantly,
right?
I'm like, oh, and then what sucks is I've got $1 billion worth of shit I've saved, and I'm like, I'm gonna need that light fixture later. Let's save that for sure.
That's funny. Okay, what do you got?
Let's see here. Wow. Okay, this is an interesting one. So I'm curious at how basic your answer will be. How to activate the lats during deadlifts?
Well, you're supposed to pull all the slack out of the bar before you lift the bar off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to do that by, you want to straighten your arms completely and flex your triceps. And so you're not pulling with your biceps. And then you want to drive your shoulders towards your hips.
Yep.
So you're engaging your lats, like you're pulling your shoulders towards your hips. So you're trying to shorten your lats. And then you pull all the slack out of the bar so there's no slack at all. And then you drive. So that's kind of the checklist that I do.
Well, I think the basic thing too that I was going to drive home, I think sometimes people, they think of activating a lat or what they're feeling. You cannot compare what you feel doing a deadlift in your lats to what you do on a pull down or a row.
Oh yeah, well it's not a direct lat exercise. Like you're loading the entire back in a functional way, but you're not training really any meaningful range of motion for the lat. And you're not going to get like a burn in your lats deadlifting. But
I feel like you got to point that out because people miss that. I think a lot of people, it's silly as it sounds, they look at a guy like Johnny Jackson that's got a back for days, and they know that he credits a lot of that to heavy deadlifting.
Right.
And then they're like, but I don't feel that the same way I feel a row or a pull down.
Johnny doesn't feel his deadlifts in his back. I'll tell you that much right now. You ask Johnny Jackson what he feels when he pulls heavy, and he says everything.
That's exactly. I had somebody ask me that one day. They said, what part of your back are you hitting when you do that? And I say all of it.
Everything. Like the whole fucking body. So here's something that someone said to me the other day, and I just thought to myself, oh no, this is evidence of a gross misinterpretation of what's being attempted to be communicated from a lot of influencers. Mm-hmm. So I had a girl say to me, she's like, yeah, I'm leg pressing, but I just don't feel it in my quads. And, no matter how much weight I take off and no matter how light I make it, I just can't isolate my quads.
Oh, God.
And I thought, oh, no, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of almost everything.
Yep.
The people spouting off about, oh, put your feet here and you'll feel your quads. Put your feet here and you'll feel your glutes. Put your feet here and you'll feel this. First of all, that's not like, it's not that simple.
No.
And if you don't,
true.
nor is that true. And even if it is true, is it like 5% more, 10% more? Like it's not like on and off. And these people, some people think that they should feel nothing but the target muscle.
Yeah, they think they're doing an extension now.
Like, well, I'm doing leg press with my feet low, but my butt's firing pretty hard, so I need to take weight off to try to isolate my quads. Like they think their butt's not supposed to flex. Like it's not. That's not how it works. You have to load the body. It's almost impossible to know where to begin to re-explain everything to them. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it's interpretational. Like the other day, my Q&A, I said somebody asked about taking salt out, and I literally said, I just off the cuff, I was like, anybody who's still pulling all your salt's an idiot. Like that was my answer. And then I got a question an hour later, somebody who had read that, and there was like, why don't you believe in sodium manipulation? I'm like, whoa, that's not what I said. Like, I did not say you can't manipulate sodium. I said pulling sodium is stupid. Like, but it was funny because that's an example of what happened to that girl is she's hearing not really what they're saying, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like I've said the same with biceps, you know, I lower the weight to really focus on my bicep contracting, but I'm not grabbing the fives. It's the maximum I can do while staying in that focus. So I'm still trying to progress. I'm still using as much as I can.
Yeah.
But it's as much as I can that way. You know what I mean?
Plus biceps is pretty isolationist too. So whereas like a leg press is like so compound that to think you could isolate one muscle and everything else would be like deactivated to the point of resting.
Yeah. Your hamstrings are doing nothing while it's in your chest, while your knees are in your chin. And you're pushing back up. The glutes and hams won't do anything.
Yeah, it's just a kind of an unrealistic idea of what's going on when they're lifting weights.
Yeah,
so
no, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But that's the same with back. So yeah, it's you know.
Yeah. I've had people say the same thing.
Like, way.
You know, I keep taking weight off and I still don't feel my lats.
Yeah, definitely tough. Oh, here we go. This is actually a cool one that you can run with. BMR calculators say I need way more calories to maintain. Am I restricting my metabolism?
Well, I mean, I don't know what BMR calculator they're using or anything like that. I mean, it's hard to really answer the question without knowing a little more about what are they eating and where are their calories. But you know, generally, if you get like a rough estimate as to your basal metabolic rate, and if you're like grossly under that on a daily basis, that's not usually a good thing.
Well, you're going to know, you know. I mean, that's kind of where I was hoping to go with that is I understand the use of these things, the calculators, the body fat, but at the end of the day, I think people need to really simplify it further. Like, listen, you know, it's saying you need more calories. Are you restricting your metabolism? Well, what's your body telling you?
Yeah. Like, are your workouts amazing and your strength is through the roof? Or do you feel like, you know, dog shit and your strength sucks?
Yeah. I mean, because I think if you do that, sometimes it's fuck the calculator. You know, or just like fuck the scale. I mean, I just had a guy the other day. He's the same weight for 3 weeks and drastically looks different. And I'm like, I always remind him, this is why the scale is not the only thing I look at. Because if I was only looking at your scale, I would fight you to the death to get it down, you know, so be careful with these things too. Plus, you don't know how accurate the number is you're getting from it. So at some point, it really does come back to what do you look like and what's happening in the gym?
Yep.
You know, it becomes really simple. I think if more of you all were working with good coaches, and I'm not saying your coaches aren't good, I ask almost every week, how's the training? How's the strength? Even though it's part of my questions that they have to answer, I want a little more detail. What's happening in the gym? Because then I can decide with that information last night and the pictures. Yeah.
You know, like, you know, his weight's the same. He's got a bunch of stuff that's the same, but the strength is up. So it's like, well, fuck, take that. Yeah. I agree. The training matters. I really liked what Meadows said in our secret episode.
But no one gets to know but us.
Yeah. But he was saying, like, as he's gotten older and more experienced, and, you know, also too, I will attest to this, as you get back to training on nothing but HRT, and you start to, like, you know, recalibrate what normal is and, you know, what recovery is and all that sort of stuff. He said he's moved a lot more towards, like, away from exercises and plans and more towards just like, are you loading the muscle through an active range of motion?
Yeah.
And for some muscles, you're going to need at least a couple different exercises to do this, you know, because you want to hit a stretch position and you want to load it well and all that stuff. So it, you know, 5 exercises, 6 exercises, 7 exercises, or 3 exercises. That's not where the magic is. The magic is in how are you moving the weights? what are the sets like? Is this a good exercise for loading? Does it have a decent strength curve that makes sense? Being efficient. And I have to totally agree that that's just how I just don't think about training as like, oh, I have to do that exercise or that exercise. I'm like, no, I have to load the muscle from point A to point B. I can use any of these exercises. It doesn't matter. And, and I've noticed that, it's, in my head, it's just super simple now.
Well, I think it's funny because this is an argument I've been having for years, which is do what works for you.
Right.
Because I think that's where people get stuck, whether they're asking, you love the leg press. You've always loved the leg press. If I'm a fan of you and I don't feel the leg press, or it's hurting my hips or whatever it is, I don't need to be in love with it because my idol does it. You know what I mean? And then same thing in reverse. Like I used to love looking at people saying like Johnny and Branch train like shit. I'm like, look at them.
Yeah.
Like I have a hard time arguing with their results. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what it comes back to. Where Max Charles is another one. He trains in a really short range of motion, always has. And I see people blast him and I'm like, have you seen that fucking guy?
Right.
Get away from the idea that you must do something and that you must do it in a certain way. And I think you're going to find yourself getting crazy results, like John said, because, I've worked with him before. Like we did a lot of different things that I really liked because it's like, especially when you're getting into muscles that are struggling to work, to grow, you start getting creative. You start thinking, it's like, hey, for my legs, a traditional squat does not work.
I really liked the line that he said. He told a story about one day he was squatting like close to 600 pounds for like reps in the gym. And he was not a huge guy at that point. And then after that, he was doing like something fancier, like Bulgarians or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. And he said, the guy came over and said, the guy that owned the gym or whatever, said he came over and he goes, John, you're going to go a long ways because you're one of the most creative bodybuilders I've ever met. And he said when the guy called him, is that how the story went?
Mm-hmm. More or less, yeah.
And he said when the guy called him creative, said you're the most creative bodybuilder I've ever met. He like really took it as wow, maybe that's my thing. Maybe I should run with that and allow that to come out and not try to control it, like allow it to just flow. And, which would, it's kind of cool because, John Meadows became known. Like that's one of the things he did was, he had so many creative ideas that other people weren't doing. So I really like that story. That was cool.
No, I thought it was good too, because it, and everything comes with a asterisk next to it for me, because I say yes to that, but I also say it for someone like John, because for a lot of your clients, that would be a way to avoid doing things they don't enjoy. Like deadlifts are a bitch. They're brutal to do. And a lot of people just don't want to do them. So they would avoid it out of, I'm going to be creative and do a pinky twist row. You know what I mean? So it's making sure you understand that when John was doing it, it was literally to maximize his body. He was willing to do whatever it took. And for example, the Bulgarian split squats, the routine he does, which I have now passed on a million times, if done correctly, is far more terrible than anything I've ever done on a hack squat. Like,
plus it's one leg at a time, so it's double the worse. It's terrible.
Terrible. But that's the thing, is he's hunting for things that work. And I think if you can do that at the highest level, then absolutely. Like, I put people in a box because that's the only way to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. But my more advanced people, when they come in, I'm like, you want me to write the training or are you good? Like, And I might say, but along the way, if I see a body part that's not coming along, I might ask you, hey, what are you doing? Have you thought about doing this? What do we think about trying that? But there's quite a few people on my roster that I don't write their training at all, just their nutrition, supplements.
Yeah, I there's some people where I'm like, hey, send me your training. Let's see some videos. Let's see your split. And I get all their videos and I'm like, oh, this guy's like training hard and has great form. And then I see his split and I'm like, oh, that makes good sense. Let's just roll with that. And, and then other times there's people where I'll say, hey, you know what? I like your training. So let's just keep that going. But here's maybe a better split.
Right.
Let's just shift into a better split, but I'm not going to change how you train.
Right.
And then other people get like a full program and stuff because I've just got to overhaul everything,
Yeah. And some people like it that way,
Yeah.
It's funny, but I did that yesterday when I went in the gym. Tommy's like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, not today, kiddo. I'm following you. What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fun shit.
How long have we been running? We're using a new app
I was
now.
going to say, we're on 2 hours now, man. So,
way.
2 hours since we started, not since we've been recording, but, so we should probably maybe do one more and tie it out because
let's do one more. You got a fun one?
Let me look here. Or if you can think of something you've already got. Merch, goes to your building. Hi. I have so many of these right now. First experience with drugs. Okay. I have one, but I don't know if you want to touch it.
Do you remember the first time you smoked weed?
Absolutely. I also remember the first time I took a shot.
What was the first time you smoked weed?
I was 13, and it was with my neighbor's mom. It's so funny because it's all these stories that you know of, Ron, are all linked together. Yes, she was. I'm going to leave it at that. There's more stories there. Yes, before she took me to the Nine Inch Nails concert in the car.
Oh my goodness. Okay. There you go.
Yes.
Did she just give you a little puff? Was it just a little puff?
No,
she
had rolled a joint and we were just going back and forth on the way there.
Damn, you must have been fucked up.
I was wrecked. Completely wrecked. I actually, this is funny. I'm gonna parlay this into a separate story because it's when I have to. So during COVID, I was dating a girl that was out of town, and I was going to see her, so I needed to get tanned. And obviously the tanning salons are closed. So I called a friend of mine who has her own spray gun. And I was like, hey, will you spray me? And she may or may not be an extremely attractive woman also. And I go over to her house and I brought dinner and we smoked weed. And I remember I had smoked enough weed that I was wrecked. Like I barely knew what was happening. And I said to her out loud, because I've known her forever, I was like, this is so weird because I keep catching myself looking at your boobs, but I don't mean to because it's you, but it just happens. And she's laughing and we're sitting there. So finally I was like, we should probably tan me. So I go downstairs and she sprays me in her garage. And I don't really remember much after that, except for the fact that I got in my car and I was like, all right, I need to wait, like to make sure I can get home. And literally from her house to mine was 1, 2, 4 turns. So I get home, I celebrate my victory by explaining the next day to the girl I was going to see that I got so fucked up I could barely remember and I don't know how I got home. And she's like, so let me get this straight. You went and got super high with a hot chick, got naked, and you don't remember much. And I was like, well, that's the story. That's not how I said it. It was different the way that I
it sounds more believable coming out of my mouth.
The way that you said it sounds bad, but I was tanning to come see you. Like, my bad.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, she had some really great stuff from one of the shops here that was phenomenal, like better than the stuff I was getting. I was like, man, I do this all the time. Why am I completely fucking wrecked?
That's so funny.
Yes.
I was never really exposed to weed until I got to Australia. Like all through high school, I'd smell weed sometimes. Like, you smell someone smoking it, but
skunk.
None of my friends smoked it. It wasn't really around me. I was never really around weed at all. I knew there were some kids obviously in high school that smoked it, but back in those days, it was different. It was like, I just didn't have any friends that smoked weed. It was more of like the stoner headbanger kids that were down on like the shop end of the school. They like smoked weed. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it was.
I love that I clicked that immediately. I'm like, oh yeah.
They're like the guys that took automotives, like they're smoking weed, but I just wasn't part of like none of the football team. I never smelt it at a football trip or anything. It was just, we were clean cut kids. Just alcohol, thanks.
You've always been just just alcohol. Yeah.
Just a bottle of Captain Morgan, thanks. You know?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. We were angels.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I get to Australia when I'm 19, and, you know, I've been traveling through Asia for a while, and I get to Australia and I meet these bodybuilders at you know, on the Gold Coast, and I move in with a good friend of mine. And, well, at the time I just met the guy, but we hit it off really well. So I move in with him, and, you know, he's got everything. He's set up. He's got, you know, he's renting a house. He's got like these 2 extra bedrooms. He needs a roommate, you know, so I move in, he's got everything, you know, full kitchen. It's like, you know, I'm moving into like a luxury life, you know, moving in with like a good bodybuilder. Everything's there. Like, fuck, it's already organized for bodybuilding. Like, this shelf in the fridge is,
we're good to go.
yeah, this shelf in the fridge is all meat, and this shelf in the fridge is all, you know, like it's already bodybuilder. Yeah. The house is already done up right. So I move right in, and first day moving in, I'm like unpacking my stuff, like open the cupboard, and there's like a bong. And I'm like, oh, is this a bong? Because I had literally never even held a bong. And he goes, oh yeah. No, he's just like casual. He's like, oh yeah, that's one of the bongs. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, oh, we'll have a smoke after we train legs today. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm having a smoke later. Like, I was just surprised. So anyways, we go to the gym, train legs. And then it was my first night in the house, right? Like, I just moved in that day. So it's my first night in the house. So we come home from the gym, and, you know, I'm like, we just fucking smash legs. He blends up some shakes. We pound the shakes. It's like, we're living the life. This is the bodybuilder life, right?
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, we throw the barbecue on, and fuck, you know, it was just such a fun time in my life. And he pulls a bong out. He packs a little fucking bowl. He's like, okay, you know, take a big hit. And I just, fuck, I never smoked. I never really smoked. I never smoked anything in my life.
Was it a water bong, or what was it?
It was a water bong. Took a big pull off this water bong, you know, and then you let your thumb off, and holy fuck, did I cough and cough and cough. And I coughed so hard that I threw up.
No way.
And it was just like a little bit, but I threw up. So then he was making fun of me. He's like, man, you can't even handle you fucking puking on.
You're telling me you've never done it before, or no?
Oh yeah. He was just joking around. He's like, oh man, you can't handle your drugs, right? And anyways, so you know, I'm like, my stomach settles down, and I like quit coughing, and then I realize how fucked up I am.
I'm the one big hit.
And my first thought, I'll tell you, the first thing that went through my head when I smoked weed for the first time: I've been fucking lied to. That was my first thought. I've been lied to. This is awesome.
I've been lied to. That's so great.
I've been lied to this whole time. This is awesome. Yeah, I see why people do this. And then I sat down and ate this giant plate of food, these big steaks, and I'll never forget. You're going to fucking kill yourself. It's going to be so nerdy. We turned the TV on, original Star Trek, season 2, episode 4, Mirror, Mirror.
Remembers, Jesus.
I know my Star Trek.
Only you. Oh my God.
And that happens to be a pretty trippy episode. I'm not going to try to explain it. For the first time. Yeah, that also happens to be kind of a trippy episode, because it has to do with 2 different parallel dimensions. So it's kind of interesting. It's really well done. But there's like a moral lesson at the end of it. And I remember, like most Star Treks, there's like a moral lesson at the end of those old episodes, which was actually great. But I remember being high for the first time, and like the episode coming to an end, and like processing what it meant, and sitting there, and it was like the most profound thing. I was like, wow. I was like, what a great script that was. I remember just sitting there like, and I remember thinking like, holy shit. Now that I know what weed is like, I have to go back and re-listen to every one of my fucking records and watch all my favorite movies. I remember thinking that. I've been fucking lied to this whole time. These people are crazy. These fucking people that hate this are crazy. This is way better than booze. I can't believe. And like, I like literally stopped drinking.
You were done. It was a waste of time now. You'd found something better.
Like every once in a while I'd drink to have fun, but like,
right.
I was like, oh, fuck that.
I think it's
Yeah.
great because I can only imagine what he was thinking and viewing as he watched you just,
Oh, he's laughed
come
his
into
ass
your
off.
own.
He laughed his ass
He's
off at that.
watching your brain analyze the show while he's just like over it and moved on with life.
We've talked about it, actually. We've talked about it. It was pretty funny. It was a funny stage of my life. I was 19 and, we were both out to turn pro,
I think it's great though that you, I think more people, including, I mean, I did a lot because of sports, but like you said, you've done a lot, like traveling Asia, and then I'm going to go live in Australia for a couple of years just because, like, people don't want to. Like, it's funny, but people don't want to leave their hometown.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
Security
I don't know
of that
like
stuff.
that.
But what's funny is I think that it's and this is coming from me who's really set myself up in a place, but like I think you can really hinder yourself if you don't leave comfort. Like if you think about it, like you could always go home when you're done, but the fact that you had the desire or the balls or however you want to say it to like just up and let's go see. I mean, you didn't really even have a game plan. You just were like, I moved to Australia.
I just had a work visa. That was it. Yeah. I just figured I'd run into people. And
but don't you
I have learned
get that story? Like they get somewhere with that. Like you went there, you established, and you learned a ton for your life that are used now because you didn't sit at home in Edmonton and work the farm.
And I think I had like an urgency about doing some of that because I remember like kind of having the thought in my head, like, oh, well, once I'm 24, I'm going to be like,
old,
unable to do that. Like, yeah, like I just figured like I was 19 when I did that, when I left and did that kind of 2 years of traveling and living overseas. And, I think I sort of thought I have to do it now because like later on, you hear people say, oh yeah, well, I got a job now and I own a house and blah, blah, blah. So I just knew I had to do it then. And then I'd had a friend who'd already done some crazy traveling, like where he just like went out into the world for a year. And he wound up being in like a Jean-Claude Van Damme film in Thailand. And he was in a fucking Hugo Boss ad in Hong Kong in his underwear. And he just like, I remember he came back from being overseas and showed up at the gym and I was like, where have you been? And he just had all these stories. And I was like, how did you do all this? He's like, I just left. I just met people. Shit just happened for me. You just talk to people, you meet people, you shake hands. Like, it's just how life is. And I remember that like, I knew immediately I had to get out of my hometown when I saw him. I was like, oh, fuck, I got to do what this guy just did. So that's why. But yeah, I think one thing I'm really good at because of that traveling is I can like get set up in a new, like I could get set up and established in a completely new environment very quickly.
Right.
Because what's important.
Well, that's how those are life skills, like being able to do that,
Yeah. Like you don't need much.
No, Tommy did that when he moved here. It was funny, but he was living in Michigan. And it just wasn't really going anywhere. And I remember one time just telling him, like, you want to be in bodybuilding, you want to make money, you should live here. I was like, it's easy here. Like, come. So he was like, okay, I'm the only person he knew. And he didn't move in with me. He literally moved here. He didn't even know he was moving. He actually just said, I'm going to Arizona. As he got close, I want to say he was like 8 hours out or so. He's like, where do you live? What city? So I told him, and he rented he actually ended up in an extended stay for like 2 months.
Right.
He was like, oh, this will do. He
like a furnished condo.
Yeah. Just a dumpy, furnished week to week that he rented by the month place until he kind of figured out his way around and what he wanted to do. And he rented an apartment. And, it's funny looking back because it's like when he left Michigan, he was living in the back of a gym on an air mattress. And now he's got a successful business he's running on his own. He does online training, in-person training, knows everyone in the city. And I mean, I introduced him to a couple people, but I mean, he did it all himself.
Does he have a cool truck too?
What's that? No, he's not into cars. He's just, but no, he just has, he has everything he wants and freedom is his thing. Like, he's more like you. Like he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants every day. And because he had the balls to just be like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like,
right.
I didn't, like I said, I didn't plug in any, I just said, dude, with what you want to do, doing it here is easier. I would come here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like,
Yeah.
fuck it. All right. Boom. Jumped in his car and came over. And it's funny because I look back now, like when I see probably things he doesn't even notice, I'm like, I don't even think you realize what you did once you got here. Like you just fucking ran,
Yeah.
So super impressive. And I think more people, when you get out of your comfort zone, you have to. I mean, what was his other option?
Yeah.
Sleeping
in the back of a gym.
Yeah. He didn't know anybody that owned a gym back then. So it was like, he literally needed to become successful when he got here. And it's not like he had $100,000 sitting in his bank.
Yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
came here with very little to, he had some money, but it's not like he had a huge online client roster then. So it's cool to see. And I think more people would be successful if they got away from their security blanket.
Yeah. That's the lesson for the day. There's the moral lesson, Dusty, at the end of the episode.
We had to tie it off like fucking Star Trek, dude. This is what we're doing now. Yeah. So solid, man. Well, that was good. Let's make sure that this one recorded and we're good to go.
So my recommendations, Quentin Tarantino on Rogan.
Yes.
And then I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Roger. I don't want to get it wrong though, but he's on the new Lex Friedman episode. He is one of the guys who used to work for Pablo Escobar, smuggling drugs. He's an American. And do you remember the movie American Made with Tom Cruise?
Yes.
He was that guy that Tom Cruise plays, was one of his partners, but they kind of simplified the movie, I think.
Right.
Anyways, so he's escaped from prison 5 times. He was tortured in Mexico. He's done all this crazy shit. And now he's like an older gray-haired guy and he's free and he's telling his story. And the new episode of Lex Friedman with this guy's, because he normally has like scientists on and stuff, eh? And
so he's got this guy on. Plot twist.
Yeah, so I'm only like a third of the way in, but it's just a riveting episode because this guy's outlook on life is just crazy, He said, like, what'd you do it for? And he goes, the money. He goes, would you do it again? Nope. It's like
that's awesome. He's all nope.
Just like there's a lot of great moments in so far what I've seen. So yeah, check those out. And also too, I forgot that I mentioned it, but I don't think it made it on the air because I think it was at the end of the Meadows. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I'm getting my gun license soon.
That was at the end of Meadows. You did not mention that today.
So I'm very excited. It's a couple weeks. I got to take a 2-day classroom, 16-hour classroom thing. So it's 8 hours a day, 2 days in a row. And then I'll have my PAL and my RPAL, which are like firearms and restricted firearms. So I'll have both and I'll be able to buy a handgun.
You're becoming more American by the day, my friend.
I'm going to get a fucking eagle tattoo right here. And then on this side, Big Mac.
not a lay Big Mac, a quarter pounder. Which you don't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
That's just funny. That's just a funny meme that always makes me laugh. He's like the meme is like, I'm so American. My mother's a bald eagle and my father's a Big Mac or something. What else?
I fucking love that shit.
Okay.
Awesome.
Is that it, Dusty? Are we ready to roll?
That's it. Time to go to the gym.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell. Help us out. We appreciate it. We're glad to be rolling again. I know we've had some stutter steps in the last couple of months with near death, and then we lost the Meadows episode, which was a bit of a death to us. It was a little bit of a death.
That was closer to death than my thing.
Hey, is Dusty dead yet?
Trust me, people, it's funny now.
Yeah, in hindsight. Okay. Thanks, buddy. Remember, everybody, It's just bodybuilding.